I'm getting ready to go to a federal sentencing hearing today. It's not a sentencing hearing for me, but it's for somebody with whom I have been working very closely for the past year as he prepares for sentencing. Now, unfortunately, a sentencing hearing is something that nobody wants to go through, but if an individual finds himself targeted by the federal government, as these people are right here at the Department of Justice website, that person more than likely is going to face a sentencing hearing. And they're going to get to that sentencing hearing in one of two ways. They're either going to plead guilty in an effort to try and get a lower sentence, or they're going to go to trial and a jury is going to convict them and a sentencing hearing is going to follow. So what's important to be thinking about is, what can I do to prepare for a sentencing hearing at the soonest possible time? And that means begin thinking about this process long before the plea hearing, long before the trial, because it is such a serious matter to be thinking about what steps can I take to begin positioning myself for the best possible outcome. And that best possible outcome comes at various stages. One of the stages may be at the pre-sentence investigation hearing. If an individual works hard to position himself well, he can influence how that pre-sentence investigation report is going to turn out. And that is not something that a person should do by just outsourcing that responsibility to a defense attorney. The individual himself needs to be thinking about what steps can he take, and that's not always easy to do. As I was scrolling through this Department of Justice website this morning, and today is July the 16th, 2020, I was just looking at some of the cases that have recently come up in the Department of Justice. And there are so many cases coming where people just don't understand what level of problems they have. And I don't want to make a statement about guilt or innocence. What I believe is that any individual can begin sowing seeds for a better life, even if they are unjustly accused or unjustly convicted. As the person who is going to a sentencing, the person I'm going to review a sentencing hearing today, in my humble opinion, he is unjustly convicted. He should not even be in the criminal justice system. There are many times that prosecutors would be far better off to pursue a pathway of a civil remedy rather than a criminal remedy. But my opinion doesn't matter. His opinion doesn't matter. What does matter is that we live in the world as it exists. We begin sowing seeds for the best possible outcome at the soonest possible time. For example, I'm looking at another case right now. This is a compounding pharmacy mogul who pleads guilty to conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering. So if he is a healthcare mogul, he probably doesn't really understand the implications of the problems that he is in. This is just one person. What about the other guy here? There was another one I saw here, and I think it was this fella who, yes, a Florida man charged with COVID relief fraud and healthcare fraud. So this person was just charged. The other person had already pleaded guilty. There are tens of thousands of people who, in the course of their business, engage in doing something that results in them becoming targets of a criminal justice proceeding, even though they didn't anticipate it. And yet those people right now, the only thing they're thinking about is, how do I get out of this mess? But the reality is, you can't always get out of this mess. Just as if I am crossing the street and I get hit by a truck, I would like to have not looked both ways and maybe avoided getting hit by that truck, but I can't escape that I have been hit by that truck. Once I have been targeted for a criminal prosecution, what can I do to position myself for the best possible outcome? And that means I need to be thinking about that long before the sentencing hearing. What can I do to get there? Earlier in other videos, I have spoken a lot about the influence that Socrates had on me asking questions about what is the best possible outcome. Well, here are some questions for you to consider if you are in this position. Am I going to allow this event in my life right now to define who I am going forward for the rest of my life? Or can I make some decisions that will put me on a pathway to get a better outcome? What can I do? The first thing that I have to do is think about the challenge that I'm in right now. Number one, I am facing a situation where people are going to be looking at a document that says United States of America versus whatever your last name is. In this case that I have up here on the Department of Justice website, I'm looking at Carlos Bellone. So right now, he is looking at a document that says, and I probably can pull it up here, Criminal Division, no I can't, they don't have it here. I could probably pull up a document that says United States of America versus Carlos Bellone. That's a very effective starting point, because you've got to start thinking about, well, what would people think if they saw that the entire country is against me, the United States of America? It's really hard for a defendant to come to that conclusion, but that's the reality. When you get targeted by the federal government for a crime, it's going to say, the indictment or the criminal complaint is going to say United States of America versus your name. Well, what can I do about that? I can choose to go to trial if I want to, but even if I'm going to choose that path, I need to start by thinking, what are all the implications? Number one, what are the prosecutors thinking, and what is going to be their objective? Is their objective going to be justice, or do they already have enough vested in this prosecution that their objective is to get a conviction, and maybe they'll do anything to get that conviction? And if you don't believe me, just take a look at some of the judicial pleadings that you could find just by going to pacer.gov. You will see that prosecutors have frequently been alleged to have withheld evidence that might tend to exonerate a person, they have their own personal interest. You have to think about that. If you are a defendant, you have to think about that. What is the goal here? You have to think about the probation officer. Who does the probation officer report to? What are they aspiring to do? Are they really going to show who you are as an individual and the good that you have done, or are they only going to focus on the alleged criminal activity? Alleged criminal activity that in most cases will result in a conviction. You have to think about the judge. Who is the judge? What does he see every single day? What does he likely think about you? And I can give you a couple of examples. When I went to trial, and I went to trial because I made some really bad decisions. I was in fact guilty of the charges brought against me, and I knew that I was guilty. And a jury listened to the evidence against me, and I broke the law again during the trial by denying what I had done. I got on the stand, I put my hand up and swore to tell the whole truth, but then I proceeded to lie. But the jury saw through that, and they convicted me. But I remember what the judge said after the trial, when he was ready to discharge the jury to consider the jury's verdict. He said, "Now you have to convict him beyond a reasonable doubt, but you don't have to have no doubt. You can have a little bit of doubt and still convict him." That type of statement is what you should expect if you're going to a sentencing hearing. Expect to have like an inducement from the United States government to say, we want a conviction. So if you think that that's what you're going to face, then you can start thinking about, what can I do? What can I do to help the prosecutor see me differently? What can I do to help a probation officer see me differently? What can I do to help a judge see me differently? What can I do to help a prison official see me differently? What can I do to help all of the stakeholders that I am going to encounter in the future to see me in the way that my parents see me, my siblings see me, my spouse sees me, the community that knows me best sees me? If you can begin asking those kinds of questions, you can begin putting yourself in a position that on the day of the sentencing hearing, you have at least sown some seeds for a better outcome. This doesn't happen by accident. This young man right here, he's only 37 years old, Carlos Balone from Coconut Creek, Florida, and he has been charged with a criminal complaint, unsealed today upon his arrest in the Southern District of Florida with wire fraud, conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud, payment of healthcare kickbacks, and making false statements to a financial institution. So all of this happened on Friday, apparently July the 10th. So just last Friday. Well, during these 6 days since then, Carlos Balone of Coconut Creek, Florida, has had a really difficult time because he's likely going through a series of complications in his head saying, why did I do this? What happened? But that's the wrong position to be in. When a person gets charged with a crime, that person has got to begin taking action. He's got to begin thinking about, what can I do in the future? Think about the journey of what will happen after the sentencing hearing. Think about the different stages where some stakeholder will have the authority, the discretion to make a decision that will have an influence on his or her life. Not only the judge, but what about the prison system? What about what's going on right now with COVID and the prison system exploding in population and exploding with people that have the virus? What about if parole comes back? What about a commutation of sentence? What about what I will face when they're making a decision on when I should be released to home confinement? Start asking those kinds of questions today, and then figure out, what can I do to influence these different proceedings that I'm going to face in the future? These proceedings that I'm going to face in the future when I will not have a defense attorney. If the only thing you're thinking about is how difficult it is and how you're sinking, you are going to lose hope. But the second you create a strategy and a plan, you will begin to restore confidence. You will begin to say, okay, I am on a pathway. I am doing everything that I can do. I am doing what I can do to help my attorney help me. And I am also helping myself for that time in the future when I will not have an attorney, when I have to advocate for myself. And there are a number of ways that a person can advocate for himself. If you visit us at prisonprofessors.com, you are going to learn about some of the ways that we helped ourselves when we were going through these challenges, and you are going to see how we got a better outcome. If you subscribe to this channel, you're going to get new videos every day that talk about different stages of the journey, and you are going to educate yourself on the time ahead. Now, you can contact us by downloading the book in the banner of our ad, but we would really appreciate it if you subscribed to this channel so that you can learn a little bit more about the judicial process, about the prison process, and about what you can do for best possible outcomes. Before sentencing, during imprisonment, when you come home, if you're a family member with a loved one in prison, learn what you can do. I am Michael Santos, and I do hope that you will subscribe. I also hope that you will consider supporting our sponsors at cbdtv.com. This is the group that provides us with the resources that we need to continue producing content to improve outcomes of this system. And I also want to say that if you have questions or comments, leave them below so that I can create videos to try and help people. We are determined to do the best that we can to help as many people as possible get the best possible outcomes. I'm in Lexington, Kentucky today. I'm flying out tomorrow, but to another advocacy event, because I'm always working to try and help more people understand the system. I truly believe that our nation's commitment to mass incarceration is one of the greatest social injustices of our time. But as a person who went through it for 26 years and came back differently with dignity intact, I also believe that I have a responsibility and a duty to help as many people as possible prepare for best possible outcomes. Thanks so much. Please subscribe to the program and leave comments below if we can help.